In this video, I'm going to show you about the Pathfinder palette and the Shapebuilder tool. They do a lot of the same things, but you sometimes might need to use one instead of the other. So let's talk first about the Pathfinder palette. I have it open here, but if you don't see it on your screen, if you go up to the Window menu and scroll down to the word Pathfinder, click on that and it will open like this. Now the point of the Pathfinder tool is to combine or break apart shape groups. So right here I have a rectangle and a circle. So I'm going to select both of them by clicking and dragging over them, or by clicking and holding Shift and clicking on the other one. So they are both selected. Now when they're both selected, the computer knows that these are the shapes that I want to deal with. I'm going to go over to the Pathfinder palette, and the top row is the most useful. When you hover over it, it'll tell you what they're for. The first one is Unite. So what this is going to do is unite all of your shapes together. If I click on that, it combines my shapes into one shape, and it takes the characteristics of the shape on top. In this case, our shape was orange. Let me undo that. So it's taking on the qualities of the orange shape. If I were to make the stroke thicker on this one and select both, do Unite, it would also take the characteristics of the stroke. So I'm going to undo that, and let's put the stroke back down on this one, just so it's not so annoying. There we go. So I'm going to select both shapes again. The second shape mode is minus front. So it's going to cut the first shape, the front shape, out of the back shape. This is really useful if you are trying to cut a ring out of something. So let's say we have a circle, and then I'm going to make another circle here and make it a little smaller. Oops. Rule number one, I didn't switch tools. So we're just going to drop that right in there. And then if I select both and do minus front, it's going to cut that front shape out. And now this is a ring. So these are really great for making custom shapes that are really complicated. Just think about it, you could make like a whole lattice with like a bunch of squares cut out. So I'm going to select my two shapes again. So that was minus front. The third one is intersect. So when I click on that, it's only going to keep the parts where the shapes were overlapping. Control Z to undo that. And then the last mode is exclude. And just like the little icon shows you, it's going to take out the parts that are overlapping and make the shapes have the characteristics of the top shape. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. The bottom row, I don't use that often. Divide is kind of useful. If you click on divide, it doesn't look like much happened, but it actually uses all of the paths to kind of cut everything apart. And if I click off of it and click back on it, it's still grouped. But if you ungroup it by right-clicking and choosing ungroup and then clicking off of it, you've actually created all these separate pieces. So that can be really useful for certain things that you're doing. So let's undo all that. We're going to undo, there we go. The other modes here, trim, merge, crop, outline, and minus back. So minus back is just kind of the opposite of the minus front. I'm not sure why it's down here and not up here. Control Z. But you know, those, if you can find a use for them for what you need to do, there's definitely uses for them and times that you might find it appropriate. So with the Unite tool, this is really useful if you're trying to make really complex shapes. For instance, I have down here a circle with a bunch of smaller circles around it to make, you know, like a simple cartoon tree. This is a great instance to use the Unite, where you select everything, choose Unite, and now you've created this really nice bubbly shape. Same thing with my cloud over here. I've got my straight bottom, and then I've got all the rounded parts. Hit Unite, and I've made a really nice cloud. If I don't want these little points down here, remember it's a shape, it has a path, so I can go in and delete anchor points and do all that to clean it up. So I'm actually going to undo all of that because I want those to be able to show you the other tool. So let's undo this one too. All right, so I'm going to move the Pathfinder palette aside for now, and I'm going to bring all these shapes in the center here. So this tool right here is called the Shapebuilder tool. It's a really great newer tool in Illustrator that kind of does the Pathfinder stuff, but even better. So with the with the Shapebuilder tool, you, same as with the Pathfinder, need to select the shapes that you want to use. I'm going to go back to my Shapebuilder. I notice now with my Shapebuilder tool, it kind of puts this gradient or this gray mesh on top. There's a little plus sign next to my icon. So if I click and drag over all pieces there and let go, it unites them. So let me undo that. Again, click and drag, and it'll combine all of those shapes together. Control Z to undo that. If you want to subtract parts of a shape, you hold down the Alt key. Alt is generally our key for subtracting or taking things away. So if I hold Alt, a minus sign pops up next to my cursor. I'm going to click on a part that I want to subtract, and now it's gotten rid of that. Control Z that. If I want to cut this spot out, I want to just have like a Pac-Man kind of looking thing. If I hold Alt and click and drag over multiple things, it will subtract multiple things. So over here on my circle, if I want to make a ring, first of all, I would make sure that these are lined up by using the Align palette and aligning the center in both directions. Then I would get my Shapebuilder tool, go to my center, hold Alt, and subtract, and now it's cut that out. So that's really easy. Now these more complex shapes down here on the bottom, you can use the Shapebuilder tool. It's just going to take a little bit longer, whereas if I select them all and I use the Pathfinder palette, it's one click, it's easy. But if I use the Shapebuilder tool for more complex things like this, I have a lot of areas to draw over because there's lots of intersecting shapes. So sometimes it gets a little weird because you might miss these little, see there's these little shapes in between that you got to make sure that you get. And I missed something here, maybe something there and there where they're overlapping, and then it does it, but it's a little bit more complex. So this would be a case where it would be better to use the Pathfinder palette, and simpler cuts work really well with the Shapebuilder tool. Just lastly, with my cloud over here, we'll do it with the Shapebuilder tool. So I'm holding, or not holding anything, just dragging. But again, you have to get all the little sections and really make sure that you get everything like that. And then I have my cloud. So really great tool to use to build shapes. You can really do a lot of intricate custom shape work and really make your stuff your own.